Hey, and we're back. Sorry about the microphone issue. I think it's happening because we tried to put this live on another channel as well. So, talking about the Realme X7 and the X7 Pro today, and had a lot of interesting questions with respect to the specs, the pricing. So, let's just quickly recap some of that. The Realme X7 starts at 19,999, whereas the X7 Pro starts at 29,999. And the X7 Pro has 8 GB of memory, 128 GB storage, and it also has a 120 hertz refresh rate Super AMOLED display. And whereas the X7 has a 90 hertz refresh rate display. So, really cool stuff there. And okay, so guys, I'm open to your questions, whatever you may want to ask with respect to these two phones. So let's just go ahead and take them. One question that I've been asked is that is the Dimensity 1000 Plus better than the 720G? Well, that remains to okay. That depends on your use case. If you're like a hardcore gamer, then the Dimensity 1000 Plus is delivering the kind of performance we've seen from the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 based phones. So yes, it does definitely perform better. With respect to heat and all, again, much better in terms of thermals, well controlled. Honestly, there's like really no issues with this, and it does feel like a fairly powerful chip. The benchmark numbers supported, the game testing supports it, the day-to-day use case supports it, and of course the battery life as well. One thing you guys have to know is that the SoC, no matter how big of a battery you have, the SoC plays a big role in how good that battery life is going to be. So, we've got that. Okay, somebody's asking me a question regarding the Oppo Reno 5 or Realme X7 Pro. Slight confusion. Pankaj, basically, the two phones are very similar in nature. They've got the same SoC. What really does stand out between the two phones is one, the design of the Oppo phone. If you like that, it's something that you can consider. But the X7 Pro has so much going for it. Like, it's got a 120 hertz refresh rate display. I mean, you may not be able to game at that refresh rate, but you will also, just the fact that you have these super smooth animations, you've got this very slick interface. I mean, this is a great phone to pick up for sure. Let's see, lots of people waving. Hi everybody, I'm really sorry we've had some difficulties technically, but we're back and we are now sorted. Okay, so what about the battery life in gaming? Okay, the battery life on the X7 Pro is actually very impressive. If you turn the display to 120 hertz, you get one full day's worth of use out of it. If you turn it to 60 hertz, then you get about a day and a half. Now, while gaming, I played for about 1.5 hours straight of COD mobile, Call of Duty mobile, for anybody wondering, and walked away with about 28-30% battery life lost. So I started at 100% and I was still at about 68-70% left. That's impressive. I do have to mention that I did plug in the charger once in between, so not a fully accurate representation, but I wouldn't worry about the battery life. Okay, then the weight. Danish, the weight on the X7 Pro is about 183 grams roughly, and this is about 170-ish. I'll get back to you on the exact numbers, but they're not very heavy, to be honest. Even if you put them in a case, they don't feel too heavy. The next question I have is with respect to the camera. Of course, how could that be missed? So somebody is asking, how is the camera? Okay, now let's walk you through it. The X7 Pro has 4 cameras. You've got a primary camera, which is 64 megapixels. You've got an 8 megapixel ultra wide lens. You've got a macro camera, and you also have a 2 megapixel dedicated monochrome. So yes, for some of you asking, this does have a dedicated monochrome mode. The image quality out of the X7 Pro is definitely impressive because it is also using Sony's IMX686 sensor, and that is just a wonderful sensor to use, and it does deliver good results. And then speaking of the video and microphone performance, so for video, the X7 Pro and the X7 offer some very interesting features. You, besides of course getting the ability to record 4K, you've got 1080p in 60 FPS, you've got slow-mo, you've got all of those features. The X7 Pro also offers a way to shoot video in low light, and it enhances your low light video to an extent where things are visible, which is really nice and handy to have. And it also has electronic image stabilization, so you can actually shoot and not have to worry so much about camera shake and things like that. So you've got that sorted as well. Okay, then the next question is regarding the battery life. The battery life on both the phones is actually quite good. One solid day of heavy usage on both of them is what you get. But more importantly, what's really nice is that the Realme X7 comes with 50-watt super dart chargings, which means that you can plug this charger into the Realme X7 and have it go from 0 to 100 in about a little under 45 minutes. The Realme X7 Pro, on the other hand, supports 65-watt supercharging. So this goes from 0 to 100 in 35 minutes, and that's like super fast. So even if you're not getting like 100, insane battery life, it's lasting 2 days, 3 days, whatever. Even if you're not getting that, the fact that you can charge these phones up so quickly is still very impressive. Okay. There is a question about Realme X7 Pro versus Realme 7 Pro. X7 Pro. Get the X7 Pro for sure. Reason being, so many reasons actually. For that extra money, you're getting a fast refresh rate Super AMOLED display. You're getting the latest imaging sensor from Sony. You're getting the Dimensity 1000 plus SoC, which is actually flagship grade. You're getting dual standby, dual SIM 5G. I know, like, okay, you guys may say that yeah, it doesn't matter 5G, but kabhi to aayega. And jab aayega, Airtel has already announced it, Reliance has already announced it, so we should start getting 5G ready. And okay, so then more questions. Does it have monochrome mode? Yes, both the cameras offer a monochrome mode. Okay, let's see. So many questions. Just give me 1 second and we will go through it all day. Danish launch date, both the phones are already available in the market. You can buy them. They're available on Flipkard. So yeah. Okay. So we have a comment saying 5G prices are high. High is always relative. I think 5G is starting to come in a lot of phones that are priced lesser than the flagship counterparts, which is really nice. 5G was limited to, the flagships for about a whole year or so. Now we're starting to see them in more phones, getting democratized, as we say. So that's nice. Pankaj is asking which Gorilla Glass protection on the X7 Pro. This is Gorilla Glass 5. Savio, I'm sorry, Savio, I may have missed your question. Can you please repeat it? I will answer it. This is not sponsored by Realme in any way. This is a completely editorial exercise. So, I will definitely answer them. Okay. Is waiting for OnePlus 9 Lite a good idea? Here's my philosophy for buying anything. If you need a phone today, buy a phone today. Don't wait, because what's the point of waiting for something to launch which may or may not happen, and you think about all the time you've spent not having a decent phone. So don't put yourself through that. Just get a phone if you need to today. Okay guys, I'm going to scroll up and I have a few questions. Yashwant is asking the storage space. It's 128 GB on the Realme X7 Pro and also the X7, and no SD card slot. So there is that. Okay. I hope that answered your question. Realme X7 versus Poco X3 for gaming. I would say the Realme X7 right now is okay. The Dimensity 800U processor is actually pretty good because it offers 8 cores. You have your review unit we have is 8 GB of RAM, so it's so far it's been doing fairly well. But with respect to the Poco X3, it's really a toss up. It really depends on which design you prefer. But when it comes to gaming as such, both the phones are really, really good and they do go neck to neck, so you can choose whichever of the two you want. Okay, can we need 120 hertz with Super AMOLED display for non-gaming and light usage? Okay, Alan, I will get to your question, I promise. Let me just get this one. Okay, 120 hertz refresh rate display is not just something that gamers get to enjoy. It's something that just makes using the phone and using the operating system so much smoother. Like your animations are smoother, your transitions are nicer. Everything just appears much more fluid. So that is the advantage of having 120 hertz. It's not just for gamers. So it's a nice experience. It feels nice. So that's why 120 hertz is definitely helpful. And if you can afford the money to pay for it, then definitely go for it. Alan, let's take your question. All right. So Alan, I'm gonna try and find your question. Actually, I'm just gonna scroll up. Okay. Oh, I actually answered your question, Alan, between the Realme X7 Pro and the Realme 7 Pro. Okay. Listen up. The X7 Pro offers you the Dimensity 1000 plus SoC. That's basically the 865 equivalent on MediaTek side. You get a 120 Hz refresh rate panel. You get a very good battery. You get Sony's IMX686 sensor for your primary camera, which does very, very well in at least the way we've tested our review unit. So overall, I would just say go for the X7 Pro. It is the newer one available today, so it's more future proof compared to the Realme 7 Pro. I hope that answers your question. Okay, there is another question about the 120 hertz consuming more battery and can you switch? Okay, so on the X7 Pro you have two modes. You have let me see if I can just show it to you. You have a 120 hertz mode and you also have the ability to set it to 60 hertz. You also have the option to basically just set it to auto, where it will automatically switch between 120 and 60 depending on the situation. So you have that flexibility, and you're right. Yeah, higher refresh rates do consume more battery, but you have to understand these phones charge so quickly that you'll not really have to worry about that. Alan, but in no 3. So Realme bundles a USB-C to 3.5 mm headphone converter jack in the box. काफ़ी लोग मेरे को बोल रहे हैं हिंदी में बात करने के लिए, तो वो भी मैं कर सकता हूँ, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. तो एक राउंड हम अब हिंदी में भी कर लेते हैं आपकी सहूलियत के लिए. तो आज हम जो दो फ़ोन्स की बात कर रहे हैं वो है Realme X7 Pro और Realme X7. दोनों फोन्स MediaTek के प्रोसेसर यूज़ करते हैं. X7 में MediaTek 800 Dimensity 800U है और इसके दो वेरिएंट्स अवेलेबल है, 6 GB रैम और 8 GB रैम के साथ. जो X7 Pro है इसमें MediaTek का Dimensity 1000 प्लस यूज़ हो रहा है SoC, और इसमें 8 GB रैम 128 GB स्टोरेज है. जहाँ तक डिस्प्लेज है, दोनों के डिस्प्ले 6.5 इंच के हैं, AMOLED स्क्रीन हैं. बट X7 में रिफ्रेश रेट 90 हर्ट्ज का है और X7 Pro में 120 हर्ट्ज का है. सो दैट वो काफ़ी 90 और 120 में अगर आपको फ़र्क नहीं पता चलता तो कोई फ़र्क नहीं, ऐसी बड़ी बात नहीं है. बट हाँ, हाई रिफ्रेश रेट काफ़ी अच्छा लगता है यूज़ करने में, क्योंकि उससे UI बहुत स्मूथ लगता है और एनिमेशंस काफ़ी स्मूथ हो जाती हैं. तो एक काफ़ी प्रीमियम सा एक्सपीरियंस आपको लगेगा ये दोनों फ़ोन्स यूज़ करने में जो मेरे हाथ में है. और X7 और X7 Pro के बीच में दो और फ़र्क है, वो ये है कैमरास का सॉरी. X7 Pro में क्वाड कैमरा सेटअप है विद अ 64 मेगापिक्सल प्राइमरी कैमरा, जिसका सेंसर सोनी का बनाया हुआ है, सोनी IMX686. और जो realme x7 है इसमें सिर्फ एक ट्रिपल कैमरा सेटअप है, जिसमें प्राइमरी कैमरा अभी भी 64 मेगापिक्सल का है, बट ये सोनी का IMX686 सेंसर नहीं है। तो ये आपको दोनों फोन्स के फर्क रहेंगे। जहाँ तक प्राइस की बात है, realme x7 19,999 से शुरू होता है, और जो x7 Pro है वो 29,999 से शुरू होता है। एक्चुअली एक ही वेरिएंट है इसका, तो वही प्राइस है। दोनों फोन्स जब आप खरीदेंगे आपको बॉक्स में TPU केस मिलेगा, आपको Realme का 65 वॉट का सुपर डार्ट चार्जर, उसकी केबल मिलेगी, TPU केस मिलेगा, और आपको एक USB-C to 3.5 mm हेडफोन कन्वर्टर जैक भी मिलेगा। और जहाँ तक बात है कनेक्टिविटी की, दोनों फोन्स में 5G है, और दोनों फोन्स डुअल सिम डुअल स्टैंड बाय 5G भी सपोर्ट करते हैं। काफ़ी लोग पूछ रहे हैं डिस्काउंट और फ्री में देने के लिए। सॉरी गाइज, आज तो नहीं हो पाएगा मुझसे, मे बी नेक्स्ट टाइम। ओके, और कोई सवाल, एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस? आई एम हैप्पी टू। ओके ओके, Realme X3 Super Zoom आ जाएगा विद 60x zoom, 12 GB रैम, so why we buy X7 only for AMOLED? यार ये तो आपके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है कि आपको वेट करना है नहीं करना। ये जितने भी फोन्स अभी ये रूमर्ड है, इनके स्पेक्स एक्चुअली ऐसे होंगे नहीं होंगे, सवाल सबसे बड़ा ये होगा। दूसरी चीज़ ये होगी कि ठीक है आपको 60x zoom तो दे दिया, बट वो अच्छा है नहीं है, इफेक्टिव है या नहीं है। बहुत चीज़ें होती हैं जो आप बिना फ़ोन को यूज़ करे या रिव्यू पढ़े नहीं डिसाइड कर सकते हैं। और अगर क्या पता फ़ोन फाइनली आया और आपको लगा कि यार ये तो इतना अच्छा है नहीं, फिर आप बोलोगे यार मैं तो X7 Pro ही खरीद लेता पहले, वही बेटर था। तो ये मतलब वेट करना एक बहुत डेंजरस गेम हो जाता है, क्योंकि फिर आप वेट ही करते रह जाओगे। ये सीन है। तो और क्वेश्चंस? ठीक है, यहाँ पे भी है। लेट्स सी, बैटरी लाइफ की मैंने बात करी। बैटरी लाइफ के बारे में अगर आप जानना, अच्छा, राजेंद्र धरवाल इज आस्किंग स्टोरेज कितना है। राजेंद्र भाई, इसमें स्टोरेज 128 GB है दोनों फोन्स में, तो काफ़ी स्टोरेज है वेरी ऑनेस्टली। और अगर आप गूगल ड्राइव यूज़ करते हैं तो आपकी फ़ोटोज़ वैसे ही बैकअप हो जाएंगी। आप अगर दोनों फ़ोन्स को HEVC कोडेक यूज़ करने को बोलोगे फॉर द कैमरा, तो आपकी फ़ोटोज़ और वीडियो वैसे ही छोटे साइज़ के हो जाएंगे, तो आपको स्पेस का टेंशन होना नहीं चाहिए। हाँ, तो बैटरी लाइफ का एक सवाल आया था, तो मैं आपको बता दूं, Realme X7 में 4310 mAh की बैटरी है, और 50 वॉट की सुपर फास्ट चार्जिंग सपोर्ट करता है, नॉट 65 बट 50। उसके साथ साथ आपको बॉक्स में जो मिलेगा, वो जो चार्जर है वो पूरा 65 वॉट वाला है। तो जहां अभी मैंने टेस्ट किया और जब ये बैटरी इसकी डेड थी, तो 0 to 100 चार्ज ये हुआ अराउंड 45 मिनट्स में। नॉट टू बैड टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट। और जहां तक Realme X7 Pro की बात हुई, Realme X7 Pro में 4500 mAh की बैटरी है, और वो 65 वॉट का फास्ट चार्जिंग सपोर्ट करता है, और इसकी बैटरी 0 to 100 जाती है 35 मिनट्स में। जब मैं ये रिव्यू कर रहा था सुबह, काम के लिए तैयार हो रहे हैं, बैटरी इज अबाउट 10-12%, और तैयार हुए, चार्जिंग पे लगाया फ़ोन, नाश्ता किया, नाश्ता किया था 4 टोस्ट 1 कप चाय, और तब तक बैटरी आ गई थी ऑलमोस्ट 68% पे। डेफिनेटली दैट फास्ट। तो काफ़ी अच्छा चार्जिंग स्पीड की वजह से आपको बैटरी लाइफ की टेंशन नहीं लेनी पड़ेगी। कल्पेश पाटिल इज आस्किंग प्रोसेसर कौन सा है। The Realme X7 has the MediaTek Dimensity 800U processor, whereas the Realme X7 Pro is using the MediaTek Dimensity 1000 Plus. These are your two processor choices. Poco X3 versus Realme X7, कितना फ़र्क होगा परफॉर्मेंस में? वो तो मैं आपको अभी नहीं बता पाऊंगा ऑफ द टॉप ऑफ माई हेड, बट अगर आपको लेना है तो आप Realme X7 ले सकते हो। एक्चुअली हमारी वेबसाइट पे digit.in पे आपको रिव्यूज़ मिल जाएंगे दोनों फ़ोन्स के, आप वो पढ़ लीजिए, डिटेल्स सारी वहाँ पर हैं। वो आपको ज़्यादा बेटर में डिटेल्स मिलेंगी जो मैं भी आपको दे पाऊँगा। राजेंद्र धरवाल, नो गिव अवे, बट नो गिव अवे, सॉरी बडी। Any other questions और कोई सवाल हो आपके about the Realme X7 and the Realme X7 Pro? Happy to take them. और मतलब कुछ भी टेंशन हो, मैं हूँ यहाँ पे आपके सवाल का जवाब देने के लिए, हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में. अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैं यही दो भाषा जानता हूँ, सो दोनों में आपकी मदद कर सकता हूँ. भरत, आई एम फ्रॉम दिल्ली, आई गेस दैट्स द बेस्ट. शहजाद, हाँ दोनों फ़ोन्स में स्लोमो है 720p एंड 1080p में. अगर आपको एग्जैक्ट फ्रेम रेट्स जानना चाहते हैं तो मैं आपको बता देता हूँ. अभी आपके सामने ही खोल के दिखा देता हूँ. इनफैक्ट स्लोमो ठीक है, तो एक तो 240 fps का मोड है इसमें, और एक 120 fps का मोड है. ये X7 Pro में है. और Realme X7 में जहाँ तक कैमरा के स्लोमो की बात हुई वो मैं भी बता देता हूँ. इसमें भी 240 और 120 fps है. सो स्ट्रेट फ्रॉम दैट. कल्पेश जी, फ्लिपकार्ट मैं नहीं चलाता हूँ, मैं डिजिट का टेक्सपर्ट हूँ. तो फ्लिपकार्ट के साथ ये कोलैबोरेशन में वी आर जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट द टू फोन्स. ओके. Sai Vamsi camera. Okay, I'll give you a rundown of both the smartphone camera stack. So Realme X7 has a 64 megapixel primary camera. It has an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a third 2 megapixel camera as well for macro. That's the X7. The X7 Pro has a 64 megapixel primary camera, 8 megapixel ultra wide, a 2 megapixel macro and a 2 megapixel monochrome. So you have 4 cameras here and 3 cameras here. Okay. Okay guys, for you, everybody who's asking about software updates, we've actually reached out to Realme and we will be getting back to you on the update. We've been asking about the update situation for a while, so just stay patient. I will try and get you that answer very quickly. Okay. No mention of Gorilla Glass protection on the X7. I will tell you which one it is. Give me 1 second. Okay. You're right. There is no mention of the Gorilla Glass on the X7. But I'll tell you what they're using on the back. Excuse me. So this is a AG coated glass. And this is something that Realme has developed in-house. तो ये जो ग्लास बैक आप देख रहे हो ये एक्चुअली काफ़ी लेयर्स में है, और इसके अंदर जो कलर ट्रीटमेंट है, और ये आपको बहुत यूनिक कलर ट्रीटमेंट लगेगा ऑफ कोर्स. तो ऊपर ये एजी ग्लास है, नॉट गोरिल्ला ग्लास, एंड दैट इज़ व्हाट यू हैव हियर. और जो Realme का X7 Pro है इसमें आपको गोरिल्ला ग्लास 5 का प्रोटेक्शन मिलेगा. सो हाँ, फ्लिपकार्ट की आईडी आप चलाते हो? नहीं, ये फ्लिपकार्ट के साथ कोलैबोरेशन है, फ्लिपकार्ट टेक्सपर्ट के साथ. सो दैट इज़ व्हाई आई एम लाइव हियर. So if you guys have any more questions, happy to take them now, but otherwise we will be wrapping this up. And yeah, so just as I wrap up this live, to give you a rundown of the specs on both the phones, and I'll give you the full specs ka rundown in both Hindi and English, don't worry. Ravi, the front is also Gorilla Glass 5, don't worry, it's nice. And they do come with a screen protector pre-applied. I fortunately whatever, had to remove them, but that's separate. But they do come with a screen protector applied as well. Okay, so the Realme X7 Pro, let's start with the bigger unit, is powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 1000 Plus SoC, has 8GB of RAM, 128GB of storage, and that is the only variant available in India. Excuse me. It's got quad camera setup, 64 megapixel primary camera, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel monochrome. Great choice of cameras, and for somebody who loves photography and film, you have a lot of flexibility right here. The display is a 6.55-inch Super AMOLED panel with a 120Hz refresh rate and a 240Hz sampling rate, which means that's the rate at which it senses your touch level. Then you have a 4500 mAh battery in here, which charges at the speed of 65 watts supercharging. Super convenient, I have to tell you that. Okay, now let's talk about the Realme X7. Now the X7 over here is powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 800U. It comes in 6 and 8 GB RAM variants. Storage is 128 GB. It's a triple camera setup with a 64 megapixel primary camera, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and of course a 2 megapixel macro. Sorry about that. The battery in here is a 4310 mAh battery and supports 50 watt supercharging, super fast charging. The display is again Super AMOLED, 6.5 inch, 90 Hz refresh rate. So that's really impressive as well. Okay, why Realme remove headphone jack from X7 series? यार हेडफोन जैक रिमूवल काफ़ी प्रॉब्लमेटिक मेरे को मैं समझ सकता हूँ. मेरे पास भी ईयरफोन्स और हेडफोन्स हैं जो जैक यूज़ करते हैं एंड काफ़ी प्रॉब्लमेटिक है कि सब ब्रांड्स अब हटा रहे हैं. बट उसकी वजह से दो चीज़ें होती हैं. एक तो अंदर स्पेस और कंपोनेंट्स के लिए मिल जाता है, जैसे बेटर वाइब्रेशन मोटर्स हो गई, और दूसरी चीज़ इससे ना ब्रांड्स को थोड़ा हेल्प मिलता है उनकी कॉस्ट को डाउन करने का. सो आप ये देखोगे कि फ़ोन सस्ते नहीं हो रहे हैं बट एट द सेम टाइम ज़्यादा महंगे भी नहीं हो रहे हैं. 5G की वजह से सारे फ़ोन्स के प्राइसेस काफ़ी बढ़े हैं. नॉट जस्ट दैट बट पैंडेमिक की वजह से, सप्लाई, बहुत रीजंस की वजह से फ़ोन्स महंगे हो सकते थे. तो ब्रांड्स को ना कुछ कुछ ऐसे डिसीजंस लेने पड़ते हैं जिस टू मेंटेन द प्राइस. सो दैट इज़ वाई. ओके, so the Realme X7 price is 19,999 for the 6 GB variant and 21,999 for the 8 GB variant. The X7 Pro is priced at 29,999 and it's the only variant available in India. So Bharat is asking, is this Type C charging? Yes, both of them are Type C. Any other questions? Okay, that is it, I guess. So thank you guys for joining today's live, and we keep doing these sessions, so join us for the next one and hopefully you'll either meet me or one of my colleagues. So thank you guys for tuning in today, and I will hopefully see you soon.